Hi everybody, my name is Natalie Jordan. I'm here to talk to you about marriage and statistics. I was married when I was 18 years old. I have been married for almost 28 years, and my husband was 21 when we got married, recently returned missionary. I am a marriage and family studies major, and so this particular topic really interests me. So we're going to look at how age, race, and socioeconomic status, your socioeconomic status, play into how long you're married, if it lasts, what age you get married. We're also going to compare it to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints members. But I want to first start out, before we get into those statistics, with a great quote by David Muir. He says, "A great marriage is not when the perfect couple come together. It is when an imperfect couple learns to enjoy their differences." I just really like that quote, and I hope that we can think about that quote as we go on and really talk about what these statistics mean today. So let's first look at the average age. What is the average age that somebody in the United States gets married? From the 2019 U.S. Department of Statistics, we got some data here. First off, we found that the average age for a man to get married is 30.1 years, and the average age for a woman to get married is 28.9. When you look at that race and how that race factors in, you can see that the Black African American community holds the highest rate of when you get married, so the oldest age at when you get married for both men and women. For men, the average age for them to get married is 32.5, and for women, it's 31.7 years old. When you look at what the youngest age to get married as far as race goes, the Native Hawaiian and other Pacific Islanders for men hold that at 29.6 years old, and white non-Hispanic women get married at 27.8 years old. From the 1920 U.S. Census Bureau, though, I found that in 1920, men average age to get married was 24.1 years old, and women was 20.3. So you can see that that age has significantly changed over the years. So let's compare it to members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Typically, people say that members of the church get married younger. According to some statistics that I found, I only found one study. It's really hard to find statistics with this, but I found a study that it was an article actually that was written about some studies that was called "This is Why Mormons Marry Young and Statistics of How Often It Ends." And it was by Harmer, and he was using data from 2012, and this article was written in 2018. But he estimates that the average age the data estimates the average age for members of the church to get married is 23 years old. And again, that was in 2012, right as the missionary age changed so they could leave to go on their missions at 18 instead of 19. The women's age came down. So who knows, it may be younger now or it may be older because more people are going on the mission. It would be very interesting to see those statistics. So now we know what the average age is. So why has it changed? Why has that age gone up? Well, one of the reasons why it has gone up is because of cohabitation. Eckmeyer and Manning wrote an article in the Journal of Marriage and Family and talked about how cohabitation is constantly growing, especially among millennials. Millennials tend to have multiple partners that they cohabitate with, so they might live with someone for a short time, break up with them, start living with somebody again, and so it pushes the age that they get married higher and higher. So when they're living together, they also have a higher chance of pregnancy. And the one statistic that I did find that I thought was very interesting is that if somebody grew up and lived with at least one biological parent, their chances went down significantly of whether they would cohabitate or not. And that was from an article in the Journal of Marriage and Family that was written by Zhang and Eng in 2020. That was an interesting statistic. So, members of the church, what about them for cohabitating? You know, we have religious and institutional pressures not to cohabitate, so I would tend to think that it is very low among the Latter-day Saint community, but there's really no statistic on that. So now let's go ahead and look at the socioeconomic status. You know, where they grew up. Are they middle class, upper middle class, low income? That's kind of what it means by socioeconomic status. So why is it that people with higher socioeconomic status tend to marry later than somebody with a lower socioeconomic status? Well, when you look at how that really compares, Carney, in a review of the Journal of Psychology in 2021, says that because somebody with a higher socioeconomic status has the income to really live more on their own, they tend to not start cohabitating. But people with a lesser socioeconomic status will tend to live together in order to help pay the bills and help lower that burden of your finances and paying bills and all of that. So that's how that really compares with socioeconomic status. And there really is no data that I could find for members of the Latter-day Saint community and how socioeconomic status affected their marriage age. So now that we know how cohabitating plays and how the socioeconomic status plays into that and the age, let's look at what are their chances of divorce? How does it put into success or failure? So how is that outcome going to be? Shanna Lebowitz said in an article that she wrote that Divorce Day, 7 Things Scientists Say Predicts Divorce, she says that age is a really big factor. In fact, those that are married in their teenage years, they have a risk of getting divorced going up 5% every year they're married. So every year they have a higher and higher rate of getting a divorce, and it really is really high in teens. There are other high risk areas, and what Shanna said, that other high risk area was somebody that gets married in their mid 30s. They compare the risk of divorce for somebody in their mid 30s or higher as the same as somebody in their teenage years. I thought that was quite interesting. But in Shanna's article, she quoted Wolfinger, where he said, "For most anyone, the late 20s seems the best time to tie the knot." Like, you have the best results. They tend to be more stable, and all of that. And we're going to kind of look at that in just a second here. So now we know the failure rate, the success failure rate. Let's look at why. Let's look at the failure rate with the socioeconomic status. Excuse me. Excuse me. So a higher socioeconomic status tend to wait to marry. We knew that from the earlier information that I gave. But why? Well, they tend to finish college, they have careers, and they have a lower rate of divorce, according to Carney, because of waiting to get married. Somebody with a lower socioeconomic status marries younger. They marry to save money. They marry probably because maybe they were cohabitating and a pregnancy was created out of that. And so they got married for that urgency, or they decided to marry only to divorce later, according to Zhang and Eng. So let's look at the longevity of Latter-day Saints. So Harmer gave an interesting fact in his article. He said that 6% of people that get married in the temple get a divorce. I feel like that rate is really low, but that is what the stats said in that 2008 article, was that if you get married in the temple, your chances of getting divorced is 6%. When you look at religious and non-religious Americans outside of the Latter-day Saint faith, the chances of divorce are 52%. So that is actually pretty high. So when you compare them, it looks like getting married in the temple has a much lesser chance of divorce. So we've explored 3 factors today. We've explored how age, race, and socioeconomic status really play factors in divorce. We know that divorce often happens because of financial burdens, and that you can find successful marriages, especially when married in the temple, according to Harmer, with that 6%. So in closing, I just want to look at, society's standpoint of many factors that we've looked at today. We learned that through Lebowitz that sweet spot to get married is, your late 20s. And that when you're married as a teenager, your divorce rate goes up 5% a year also when you get married in your mid 30s or later. Really, according to those statistics, I shouldn't be married anymore because I was married when I was 18 years old. But I am grateful that I am still married today. And I just want to end with this last quote. A great marriage is not when the perfect couple come together. It's when an imperfect couple learns to enjoy their differences. So I hope that you can find that special one if you're not already married. And if you're already married, you can learn to enjoy your differences. So thank you very much. And my audience member, my mother, have a great day.